Hello everyone. In this video, we will be working with strings in Python and showing you how to use them. So first, a string is a sequence of characters, which is, any characters that display on your keyboard, whether that's letters or numbers or even symbols. All of those are considered characters. And if you want to use them in Python, they are placed within quotes, whether that be single or double quotes. So before we get any further, I'm just going to show you some simple examples of the single quote string and a double quote string within print statements. So throughout this tutorial, I will be using comments to show you what we're doing. So the first thing will be a single quote string. And let me zoom in. All right, a single quote string, for example, would look something like this. So print single quote string. So that would be a single quote string. As you see, we're only using single quotes around our characters or our sequence of characters. And if we want to use a double quote, all you would do is change that to a double quote. And in here, you could do print, double quotes, and then we'll just put double quote string. Okay, so that is just showing you two ways to do a string within print statements. And if you run it, you see they will both appear the exact same way. So regardless of what you use, either way, a string will be created. So getting into it a little bit further, if you want to store strings as variables, you will just give it a variable name. So let's say you want to do a name and equals, and let's just say Tyler. So this will now mean that we are storing the name Tyler in the variable called name. And let's say that Tyler is 22. So there you see we have two variables. One is name and one is age, and one is storing a string and one is storing an int value. So if you were to print out just Tyler, you can now do print and say name, and name will now print out Tyler. And there you go. If you click that, you'll see Tyler is there. Now, if you wanted to see what the type is, you can hover over, in this case on Google Colab, you can hover over and it says that name is a string and it holds Tyler, and age is an int and that holds 22. But in this example, I'm just showing you two different data types so that you can see one will appear as a string and one will appear as a integer depending on your data type. But that is how you would create a simple string variable that is holding a string. So to get a little further in, you can simply just do a lot of print statements, printing strings with your strings. So print, I am working with Python strings. Print Python strings are easy to use. And those are just some simple examples of printing strings. And if you were to run those, then they will print out right to your screen. So that's easily how you would print strings to your console. And just for your information, there's no reason why I'm using double quotes in most of these examples. I just personally prefer them, but you can use single quotes if you would like. So not saying that single quotes aren't popular, but I just personally like to use double quotes. So going further into some examples. That was just some simple examples of creating variables and printing in Python using some strings. But there are other things you can do with strings. And in the next example, we are going to be covering string indexing. So string indexing is used when you want to access specific characters in a string. And in this case, it can be more than one character, it can be one character, it does not matter. It just depends on your preference. So the first thing you want to do is create a string variable that would hold something. So I will put word equals programming. So in this example, we have the string word and it's holding programming. So if you wanted to access a portion of this, you could use an index, or if you even wanted to access a specific character. So for example, there are multiple ways you can do it, but one example is by printing the actual index value of the character you want to access from the variable. And in this case, our variable is word. So let's say we want to access the P of word, then you would use the 0 because P is the first index value of the word. So if you see 0 is going to be P, then 1 is R, and 2 is O, and so on and so forth. So if we use print word 0, then that will give us back P. If you wanted to print out R, you could use 1, and then that will give us R. So that is an example of printing characters or using an index of a character within a string. So I will add this one back to 0, and then I'll holds P, and this holds R. And let's say you want to access a range of characters. So if you wanted to access a range of characters, you will use the range operator. So for example, if you in this example want to continue using word, then you could easily just use the range operator within the print statement. So here we would put print, we will keep word, and we will use the brackets, and the brackets will allow us to index. And then from here, you want to first put your start index followed by the range operator and then the stopping index. Now let's say we want to access pro from word. So we know P starts at 0. The next thing you would do is use your range operator, which is the colon, and then you would put the actual index value of the position you want to stop at. Now, when you're stopping, you have to be considerate that this means that that is exactly where it's going to stop. So you cannot, in this case, if you look, P is 0, R is 1, and O is 2. If we're trying to get pro, you cannot say 0 to the range of 2. Although O is 2, if you say 2, that means that your computer is going to stop where my cursor is at that 2 spot. It means it's not going to include 2. If you want to include 2, you have to add 1 or go up 1 more to get the value of 2. So in this case, if we wanted pro, we would need to print out word from 0 to 3, and that will give us pro back to us. So if you want to access a range, be considerate of where your range will be stopping because it will not include that last digit within the range. So just be considerate of that. So just to do another example, if you want to access a range of characters to the end of the string, you will have to use just simply the colon as the last thing within your indexing. So what I mean by this, accessing the rest of the string. So what I mean by this is simply saying print word, and then you give it the index values. So if we look, let's say we want to do gramming. So gramming 0, 1, 2, 3. The G starts at 3. And then we'll just leave it with a range operator. We do not have to put a end index if we are going to the rest of the string, because your computer will understand that it should just continue on through the rest of the string if no stop index is given. So if you were to press play or run, then you would see that it just printed out to us starting from the 3rd position all the way to the end of our string. So those are examples of string indexing. You can also access the end of the string by using the negative index. And with the negative index, you can simply do print word, and then you just put in the value you want to do. So in this case, I'll do -3, and it will still give you something back. So -3, so -1, -2, -3. As you see, -3 is going to be I in programming. So you can do that as well. So if you're ever curious about doing something, or if you don't know if something will work, all you have to do is just test it out. You have nothing to lose. So if you're wondering, can I do that rest of the string trick with negative indexing, then just try it out. Press play. As you see, it did work, but it started off at -3, which is I, and went to the end. So maybe try switching it another way. Let's see what happens if we go this way. So you can place this here, and then you can change your colon operator to the front. And let's see what happens then. And there you go. Either way you use it, you can access the end of a string or the beginning of the string if you just simply switch the position of that colon operator from your start to your end. So regardless of how you use it, this is how you could access various characters or certain characters within a string. Be considerate that if you were to have a space in your string, that the space will be considered as a character and will count in the indexing value. So just be mindful of that. All right, going on to another example. So there is a such thing as a multi-line string. Multi-line string, and the multi-line string is just using triple quotes. So let's say you want to write like a paragraph. So I'll put paragraph, and the paragraph is going to be long. And if you want to use multi-line string, then you could simply put this is a paragraph in Python that I am storing as a string. And that would be an example of a multi-line string. As you see, we have a string going across multiple lines, and that string is placed within triple quotes. So if you were to print out paragraph, then you will see that it prints it out on multiple lines just as we entered it. So this is if you want to use a lot of text, or you have a lot of information that you need to store and or print out, you can use the multi-line string. Your length of lines does not matter in this case. It could be whatever you want it to be, but just remember that this can be useful if you are working with a lot of data. So just be considerate of that. So now that we've gone over that, there is certain things you can do with strings once they are created. And in this example, I'm going to show you how to compare strings. So if you wanted to compare if two strings are equal, you would use the equal to symbol or double equal signs. So let's say we have a name equals John, and we'll put name 1 equals Ashley, and let me capitalize this. Then we'll put name 2 equals TJ. So if you want to check if two strings are equal, you can easily just do a simple print statement. Print name is equal to name 1, and you can click run, and you see it gives us false. So if I were to do this, name 3 is equal to John, then I redo this print statement. Print name is equal to name 3. Then you will see that it will give us back true because these two strings match. Name and name 3 match. So that is why we would get true back for this one. So that is how you could compare strings. Now let's say you wanted to add strings together, and that is called string concatenation. So string concatenation is when you want to join two strings together or add them together. That's using the plus operator. So let's say you have a first name, and we'll say it's going to be equal to SpongeBob. Everyone loves SpongeBob, maybe. And last name is equal to SquarePants. So there we just have two strings that are holding SpongeBob, and one is holding SquarePants. So let's say we wanted to add them together. There's two ways you could do it. The first way is just by creating a new variable, which we can call full name. And we can say full name is equal to first name plus last name. So now that we have that, let's say we want to print it out. So print full name. And then another way you could do it is simply by concatenating them inside of the print statement. So if you just do print first name plus last name, you will see that you would get the same result. Now in this example, you have to be considerate that there is not going to be a space because we did not add a space. So if I were to come up here, two ways you could do it is simply by doing it here. So you could either do here, come here, add a space, and then add a plus. So then you'll see full name will then have a space here. That's one way you could do it. Or a second way you could do it is actually by adding a space within the first or the end of that variable or the string. So then you'll see either way, SpongeBob is now going to have the space because we added it here. So that is how you can add a space between two words when you're concatenating them. But that is two simple ways you can add two strings together. So in this case, we have a string, and let's say we want to find out the length of a string. So we already have some variables created, and we'll just use full name. So what you can do is say print len of what you want to find the length of, which in our case it is going to be full name, and then if we click run, it will give us how many characters are in full name. So if you do that with another variable, you could say print length of, and we'll just put a string in there, length of word, then you see it gives us 4 back. So you can get the length of how many characters are in a string by simply using len print, and let's check the length of first name and run, and you see we have 10. So there are multiple ways of testing the length of either just a string by itself or different variables, but this is how you would find the length of a string in case you need to use it in your code. Alright, getting into another example of things we can do with strings. If you want to see if a substring is within your code, so a substring is just a portion of a string. If you want to see if a specific portion or a specific sequence of characters is in your string, you can use the keyword in. And because we have these variables created, I'll just test it out for you all here. So let's say you want to see if the word sponge is in SpongeBob. So in here, we're just going to simply put it in the print statement. So we'll say here, sponge, but we got to put it to match sponge, and then say in. Then you can say what is in. So sponge in, let's say first name, and run that. Then you see it gives us true. However, if we were to put print sponge with the lowercase s instead of capital in first name, then click run, you see we'll get false. And we are getting false because sponge has a capital S here and not a lowercase s, so you will get a error for that. So if you are going to use the substring check, you need to ensure that it matches the exact thing that you're looking for, or it will not work. So you can also use that with if you want to check the other variable, and we can say pants is in, and actually I'll just put sponge square pants here so you can see that you don't have to use a variable, and click run, and we are going to get true because pants is in square pants. But if you change this to a capital P, it should return to you false, and it does. So that is how you can use substring checks with your strings. And I'm going to start a new section of code here, and then we'll get into some escape sequences. So escape sequences can be used in your string, and I'll just create a variable. Let's say word is equal to programming again. Alright, so now that I have that, you can use escape sequences. So let's say you wanted to use the escape sequence of a new line. And new line is similar to us just pressing enter on our keyboard. So all you have to do in this case is say print. Here we'll put program, and then I'll put backslash in. And here I will do print programming backslash n is fun, and click run, and there you go. you see it has split up our string due to that escape sequence. It put it on a new line. Whatever comes after that sequence, so ing was after that, and ing is on its own line, and the same is here. You could also do it like this, so print programming plus \n and got to put it inside is fun, and then that will also work as well. So you see programming is fun is split up as well, and you can simply just use that by itself if you would like, but make sure it's in a string, and we can say print right here. We'll put space. Oops. Well, I'll just leave that, won't hurt. And click, and then you see that print \n or /n is basically going to print out this empty space here, because that's what we specified it to do. So this is one of the most useful escape sequences you can use, but it's not the only one. So there is the tab one, which I will show you. And tab is /t, and then the \t. So we can say print, and I'll use programming again. Program, and I'll put it here. T in. And click run, and you see it added that tab right here in between it. And if you, for example, wanted to use a slash or a quote in here, I'll do the quote. So print, if someone told you to use a quote, so we could say Tom said \quote hi \quote period, and click run. Then you see it says Tom said hi. And that's how the quotes will appear. If you need to use quotes within a string, you have to use the \, because it's not going to show up otherwise. So I will copy this actually and show you with the double quotes, because if you use quotes, then your computer is just going to think that it's a string in a string, and that's not the case. So if you want it to appear in the string, you have to use them here, like so. And then it will appear to your console. So those are some examples of escape sequences with your strings. Not saying that this is all of the escape sequences, but these are some of the primary escape sequences that you can use when you're working with your string. Okay, one of the last tricks I want to show you that you can just use is going to be your F strings. So that's formatting a string. So I'll put some variables, name equals TJ, and we'll say major equals computer science. So if you want to format a string or just place variables within a string, you can use concatenation, or you can use the F string. So I'll show you just using concatenation. So you can say print. We already have it in here, so name plus is a, you can say plus major plus major. So that's one way you could print it, or you can using the F string. Let me comment that out. Alright, and if you want to use the F string, So the F string is just a way to format or place variables or values into your string. So you could do that by saying print F, and then you will give it what you want to put into the string, or the value you want to put in the string within curly braces. So I will say name. Then after that, I will say, in this case, you could easily say that name is a, here, major, capital. And then we can say major. And click run. And there you go. So by using the F and the single quotes and placing the values we want to put in here, you can easily add values or variables within your print statements. You could also just add on to this. So if I were to do F here, and I'll do name is a, we could say right here, let's try this out, smart kid. Let's see what happens. Now in this, we need to make sure it's inside of our quotes. Like that, and click run. And there you have it. It says that TJ is a smart kid. So you don't have to use variables in this case. You can put strings directly in here and it will appear in your sentence. So this is just one way you can, or another way you can combine strings or add to strings by using string concatenation. So this is a good trick to use if you ever have to put sentences together using variables. So lastly, I want to cover some methods. There are string methods or functions that you can use. And in this case, these are built into Python. So it's not like we had to create these. They already exist and they're just available for us to use. And if you want to use them, you can use them. And there's actually a lot of string functions out there. So I suggest that you look into them further, maybe look into the different types that exist, but I'll just cover a few common ones and how you can use them. So let's say you have a name and you don't uppercase it. So we'll say name equals, let's say James. Oops. James. So James is lowercase. So let's say we want to make sure that James is uppercase. You can do James dot upper like that. And then that will make it uppercase. You can also use one of these. So if you see when I do name dot, all of these are going to be, oops, messed it up. All right, here we go. All of these are going to be different functions you can use. And for example, I'll just click on a few so you can kind of see what they do. But there are a lot of different functions you can use on strings that are built in. You don't have to worry about what it is or how to use it. But some of these are going to take remembering. So that's why I told you you may want to research these, because some of these have different formats, some do different things, some require inputs, some don't. So that's just something to consider when you're using this and testing out these string functions. So it's just best to put that in. So count, if you look here, like I said, you'd have to research what it is you're doing, but it says here that count takes at least one argument and 0 is given. So I'll say count, let's say A here. We'll put A, see what happens here, and click run, and it tells us that must be a string, not a int. So index is looking for a character, so we'll say J, and I'll click run, and there we go. So like I said, a lot of these functions you actually just have to know how to use them or remember. Some of these functions ask for the actual number value, some ask for the character value. It just depends on the one that you're using. So if you look back in this list, name dot, there's all of these you can use. Various different things. It just kind of depends on what you want to do. Join is one. So join is going to join something together. Let's say put Roberts. So you see that does something totally different. And basically what it's doing is, if you look really closely, it's adding James after each individual letter of Roberts. So if you look here, here's the O, here's the B, here's the E, R, T, the S. So that's just something to consider. And as I said, there's a lot more different functions out there you can use. And to better understand them, you will have to research it. But, I always say just test it out. If you don't know what it's going to do, act like it's your first time and just test it out to see what it does. In these cases on Google Colab, which is what I'm using, they will explain to you what's going on. So you could say like split, and then I believe you have to put in values on this one, and you have to tell it where to split it at. So you would do split at, let's say, M. May give me an error. Oh, nope. So it's split it at the M. It split the string at the M. So those are some examples of using strings. There's various different things you can do with strings. It's just a matter of you taking your time to figure out how it works, what you can do with strings, and what you would want to do with strings. It just totally depends on you. So I just want you to consider that when you're working with strings, and just use this as a learning experience. If you're curious about what you can do with a string, test it out. If you don't know if you can use this function for this or this function for that, test it out. The best way to learn Python is by testing it out. So I highly suggest that you take a look at this code, replay it, go backwards, try to take notes, try it out on your own IDE, and learn for yourself, as that's the best way to learn. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope you learned something, and I'll be back with another video real soon.